Are you looking for a quick organic boost to your search engine results? Well, really, who isn't? Well, that's part of what we talk about in today's episodes is how you can boost search specifically with Google business profile pages and Google reviews. We also talk in depth about managing the creative process from convincing technical leadership you need creative and that visual identity is important down to how to manage reviews and testing within the process. Let's do this.
Welcome to Content Marketing Engineered, your source for building trust and generating demand with technical content. Here is your host, Wendy Covey.
Hi, and welcome to Content Marketing Engineered. On each episode, I'll break down an industry trend, challenge, or best practice in reaching technical audiences. You'll meet colleagues, friends, and clients of mine who will stop by to share their stories. And I hope that you leave each episode feeling inspired and ready to take action. Before we jump in, I'd like to give a brief shout out to my agency, True Marketing. True is a full service agency located in beautiful Austin, Texas, serving highly technical companies. For more information, visit truemarketing.com. And now on with our podcast. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Content Marketing Engineered. I'm joined today by Matthew Olson. He's the founder and president of Signalfire. Welcome to the show, Matthew.
Thank you so much, Wendy. It's a thrill to be here.
And, I'm happy to see you here via Zoom because the last time I saw you, we were both in Austin at the Industrial Marketing Summit, where you were an event sponsor, and we had so much fun finally meeting in person. So good to see you again.
Absolutely. I've been a fan of True for a long time. Your reporting and your agency overall has just put out such incredible stuff. It's very flattering to be here. And that show, Industrial Marketing Summit, I was not prepared for how incredible that actually was going to be.
It was, right? Seeing all these people that are walking in our shoes of needing to market to these, skeptical engineers and technical buyers with a lot of, subject matter that's difficult to deal with as a marketer. So.
Oh, absolutely. And the fact that everyone there suddenly had the epiphany that they are not alone. That I loved the expression that was used. I found my people, and it really kind of set a fantastic, borderline magical tone for the whole event. That everyone realized, hey, these people are going through the same challenges that I am.
Well, I think in the swag bag, one of the items that was given also set the tone that this wasn't going to be your average conference, and it was provided by Signalfire. So would you share what that was about?
We included 100 milliliter glass bottles of Door County Cherry Vodka. Central Standard Distillery is located in Milwaukee, and we came across them and realized that, boy, you know what? Nothing can break the ice. Nothing can kind of bring a little bit of the Midwest down to Austin. You need a little bit of Wisconsin and Texas. So we decided to find something that would really break the ice and start a lot of great conversations. And boy, did it work.
Yes, it did. It did. Well, thank you for that. That was such a unique gift for the attendees. Well, I thought we would start out our conversation today by just grounding people in a little bit about you and Signalfire. So maybe we start with your career journey and what led
Oh,
you to starting
absolutely.
the agency.
Absolutely. So I believe it or not, I was going to be a high school history teacher.
Oh, I could
Uh,
see that. I could see you doing that.
I'm
Absolutely.
I'm going to be one of the most pathetic history geeks you'll ever meet. Um, But very quickly, I realized that, boy, passion for history doesn't always line up with core curriculum. And so I decided not to pursue that. And as an editor for the school newspaper, I was doing a lot of page layout, a lot of ad design and stuff like that. And it's like, boy, I'm sure loving this. And even though my degree is technically in history, I decided I'm going to slide into marketing. And it seems like kind of, well, one thing doesn't really line up with the other, but the two overlap amazingly. The ability to conduct research, the ability to understand trends, and not just trends over like 6 to 10 months, but really understand how some of these trends can go back years and how to research those. And so the history does pay off. I also am the ringer for any trivia contests.
I bet you
But
are.
I started getting into design, and I joke to say I come from the pretty picture side of things. So flash forward a few years of doing this, I was working at a printing company in Rockford, Illinois, and all of a sudden I realized, people are asking me to do work on the side for creative design. And just after my oldest son was born, we sat down and looked. I said, "More, I've got more hours booked after my day job than I do at my day job." So I decided to say, you know what, I'm going to make the leap. And sure enough, got things going, and that was 2006. As soon as I got my legs under me, boy, that little 2008 recession thing happened. Um,
Yikes.
and very quickly, I realized just design by itself wasn't going to be enough. And so I very quickly dove into the whole concept of more holistic marketing, and really thought this whole nifty new thing called social media was going to really change a lot of things. We grabbed onto that, and boy, that really catapulted us forward. And so it really allowed us to evolve into kind of a holistic content creation, marketing, branding, even web development component of it, and really kind of dive into a lot of very diverse customers. And we very quickly settled into two very different market segments. Manufacturing and industrial is something that we've had a passion for from the beginning, working with contract manufacturers, plastics, precision machining. But all of a sudden, we've also found that we dove into the world of tourism. And that ended up having a ridiculous amount of similarities with the industrial world. As strange as it sounds,
It does sound strange.
the whole idea is very simple. I need to find either your ideal customer or your ideal traveler and tell them a story.
Mhm.
And so, although the two industries are very, very different, the whole power of storytelling and the whole idea of refining and targeting your ideal client or your ideal traveler both ended up having a lot of overlapping strategies. Now, there's a fun economic side of it, typically because when the economy is really good, everybody's out traveling, and tourism organizations are busting at the seams with cash to market. Pendulum swings the other way, and the economy starts getting a little soft, and all of a sudden you realize so many industrial companies are like, oh yeah, we need to like get more leads, we need to start filling in the pipeline a little bit better. What can we do from a marketing standpoint to reinforce our sales? And so that's kind of where we are. Economically, where the pendulum is stuck right in the middle, so you've got both sides coming
Okay.
in pretty
Yeah.
quickly. So that's kind of where Signalfire came from.
Interesting. I really do love the contrast between that tourism side and industrial, but yet this overlapping of needing to tell your story, have the right message to the right persona. That all makes so much sense. I'm curious if there are B2C tactics that have worked well that you've been looking over at industrial and manufacturing and said, hey, we should be doing more of this over there.
Absolutely. Probably the biggest thing that has really started to not be a priority for B2B, but really needs to like start pushing a huge amount is the whole idea of online reputation. For anyone in tourism or anything like that, those online reviews are a huge component of what drives more business. Believe it or not, that's starting to become true with the B2B side of things. As your recent report talking about engineers, talk about how much of their research is now done online, and how much of that validation of you as a potential vendor can be reinforced with something as simple as a Google review. But there's a hidden bonus to starting to get into the whole idea of online reputation. Starting about a couple of years ago, Google started actually indexing your reviews. And so
Mm.
all of a sudden, now what people are leaving for you as a review can impact your organic search performance. And we've started experimenting with some of our clients to suddenly realize that, wow, a good review, and most importantly, a good review response can actually give you a really solid SEO bump. And especially when you're talking about searches now that have a geographic component to it. So I'm looking for uh, a Swiss style precision machining company in Chicago. Well, you know what? Those online reviews get displayed now in Google Maps. And
Oh,
Google
right,
Maps now show
right.
up higher in search performance, the search, your search pages
Mhm.
than organic results. So now all of a sudden it's like it makes a whole lot of sense for those reviews to have a higher priority for B2B companies.
Okay, can you
And
give me, you said a good response was part of that strategy. Can you give me an example of what a good response might look like?
oh, absolutely. So one of the biggest things as you look at Google reviews, most of the time, those reviews are packed with industry jargon and keywords. And so what you can do is when you respond to those, you can use some of those keywords and that some of that jargon back, but then you can also start plugging in tips and ideas of, hey, don't forget, we can also do this.
Uh-huh.
So an example that I'll bring up once in a while is Allie's Lawn Tractors is uh, creating a whole new line of ride-on lawnmowers. And your company, we'll call it Bob's Injection Molding, makes the flashing and the guards for around the wheels. And so fantastic. And you say, Bob goes to Allie, say, hey, we would love a review. She says, hey, you guys have been on time. You've been fantastic. Your deliverability has always been spot on. Well, then you can turn around and say, okay, well, thanks. We really appreciate the opportunity to work together, and you thank them. Keep it personal, keep it super authentic. But then you can turn around and say, hey, we were really glad our engineers were able to help you with the materials insights on some of those plastics. Now, Google suddenly sees that not only are you talking about on-time delivery and your services, but now you're also throwing in the engineering and the materials knowledge. Well,
Perfect.
between the review and the review response, now you have just keyword-packed content that applies directly to fantastic organic search performance.
Gosh, it makes sense, right? Because Google's looking for subject matter X plus company Y, not only on your website, but validation across other people's websites. So, what better place than a Google owned property to do that?
Exactly, and I know sometimes especially at the conference, the whole ad libs game of filling in the things. We have the same kind of ad lib framework for writing a great review
Oh,
response
cool.
that we've used for quite a few of our B2C clients, and now our B2B clients are starting to recognize, hey, this is a great way to generate some really free traffic. So even and one of the things that so many people forget is like I forget what the exact percentage is, but it's in the upper 70% of people will give you a review if you simply ask. And Google's business profile, which if there's any one thing that I would recommend that every manufacturer run out and do immediately, is make sure your Google business profile is claimed and has all the correct information associated with it, because that's going to allow you to go out and they give you a QR code, they give you links to go out and get these reviews. And
Okay.
they've done a great job enabling businesses to make the most out of your online reputation.
I remember when we claimed ours and it was like, wait, where did the QR code? Which person got it? And oh, you have to respond in a certain amount of time, or maybe it was a postcard. I don't remember. It was a
Oh
while back.
yeah.
Do you, on behalf of your clients, or let's say the people that your clients would like someone to review them, so one of their happy customers, do you start with ghostwriting that, or do you give them the Mad Libs style, framework, and then they fill in the blanks, or what does that usually look like?
Believe it or not, we want the end client or end customer to be as authentic to their voice as possible.
Hmm.
Typically, we'll say, here's a couple bullet points. Say, you know what? Okay, how did you find us? How was the experience? And what were the results? Just some simple guidelines, but let them share their story in working with you. That will then allow you to then turn around and say, okay, now we can build upon that with our response to tuck in, hey, there's a couple other services that can benefit here. But most importantly, it also gives you the open invite to say, hey, you know what? Next time you've got that next model of lawn tractor coming out, we can jump in within our engineering team and probably find ways to cut down on the amount of resin required for the different parts. So it really does give you that opportunity to set yourself up for success with the review response.
I think the salesperson or account manager would love that. And wait,
Exactly.
just plant those little seeds for the future. That's great.
Absolutely. And when people see that, they see that your business values your customer's opinion. And the fact that you're responding to it means that you value your customers even more.
Yeah. Well, clearly you've been really looking towards optimization for your clients, on both sides of the business. So, what do you see on the horizon for Google?
Oh, man. The world's going to be changing a lot. I know AI is on the tip of everybody's tongue, and it's going to be coming to the Google world, well, already here, but it's already impacting how things go.
Yeah.
Couple of things, especially with like online reputation. Do not just let AI write your review responses. Do not fall into the trap of, oh, man, I've got 5 reviews and they're all almost the same. Do not copy and paste. But the AI world is going to be dramatically impacting both your online reputation and just how people find you. The role of search is going to change exponentially. I don't believe that we will use search engines in the same way we have over the last 5 to 10 years. We could actually probably even see search engines start to vanish, where you're not going to Google to search. You're going to conduct your search straight away from, okay, I'm going to wear my designer hat, sit there in Adobe Illustrator and go, okay, I need to find a graphic like that. And you're going to put that straight into Adobe Illustrator, and the program's going to go find it for you.
Yeah, makes sense.
Same kind of thing is if, as you look at how AI is going to impact, whether it be HubSpot, Pardot, Salesforce, all of that, I think you're going to see AI become a phenomenal co-pilot to the whole process. So I think kind of the traditional obsession with, oh man, what is our organic Google search ranking going to be? I think that's going to start to diminish in importance as you see, and Dale Bertram's presentation from the conference just made my head explode. But how AI will reinforce and streamline how we gather information rather than going to a search engine and parsing all the search results manually.
Really,
We're
yeah.
going to have an AI co-pilot, so to speak, really be there to
Mhm.
parse that data for you and say, okay, here's the top outcomes.
Yeah. Yeah. I had this question emailed to me yesterday about the research report that you referenced, the state of
Yeah.
marketing to engineers. And in the past, we didn't do it in this report, but in the past, we've asked, how many pages deep are you willing to go before you select an answer or start your search over? And this was, of course, targeted towards engineers, what engineering behavior.
Yep.
And what we found at the time is engineers are willing to go up to 10 or more pages than they are to stop at page 1, 2, or 3. And so it shows you, I really want this depth of information from credible sources. And so the question posed to me was, why didn't you ask this again? It seems like search behavior is changing. And I said, well, one, there's no such thing as pages in Google anymore. Like
Oh,
already
I
that's gone.
know.
And two, we all know that this generative experience is coming. And then furthermore, to your point, we know that people are starting their searches from all kinds of different places, and that's only
Oh,
going to
absolutely.
continue. So I'm really looking forward to studying it next year, but it'll be interesting to figure out what to put in the answer bank because
Oh,
the
absolutely.
sources are so diverse.
Google's search generative experience, SGE, is really just going to get folded into kind of the good old fashioned Google, and it'll just be called Google in the end, anyways. But ultimately, looking at that is not only is the infinite scroll coming up now for a lot of search results, but looking at that is how are you ranking for those zero-click searches? I mean, and the percentage of zero-click searches is just skyrocketing because Google is just saying, "Hey, I don't want you to leave my page. I want
Yeah.
just to show you the questions to your answers or answers to your
Answers to your
questions."
questions.
Sorry about
Yeah.
that.
I knew what you meant. Exactly.
And
Yes.
so
How do we
as
keep you on?
exactly. And so ultimately Google is still a business. So it's going to be, yes, it's there to help you, but it's also there to keep you as much as possible. And I think that's where the obsession where you're showing up is starting to drift down in importance because Google has so many other responses to your query appearing before even the top organic search result.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we also like to tuck in saying, hey, this is where Google Maps is showing up in the search. So you might be able to get a leg up by having your Google business profile polished and set up and optimized. And there's a lot of things you can do to tweak that Google business profile.
Yeah.
But if you can show up well both with your Google business profile and Google Maps, you've got solid content showing up in the organics, all of a sudden now you're going to be coming at it in multiple directions and ultimately garnering the results that you're hoping for.
I feel like there's an elephant in the room, a Google elephant that we haven't touched on, which is companies who are overly reliant on Google advertising. What advice would you
Ooh,
give to them if they haven't been investing in some of these other places that you mentioned?
diversify, diversify, diversify.
Yeah.
I mean, I've also been a fan of Chris Walker for a long time, and he just had a recent podcast that I feel like a little bit of thunder was stolen. One of the things that we have found from actually our tourism clients and our B2C clients is the role highly targeted connected TV can play in your marketing program. Now, you need to have rock solid messaging for it, and you need to really understand who your buyers are, who your ideal client is. But all of a sudden, you're starting to see that, you know what? The television ads of old, they're gone. Nobody's spending money there. But you still have, imagine if you could get an ad in front of like how it's made,
Hmm.
or if you're selling restaurant equipment, sliding it in front of Hell's Kitchen and starting to say, okay, hey, we can take these things and drop them in front of people who are already passionate about this topic.
Yeah.
And even though it sounds like, well, that's not B2B, oh my goodness,
Oh,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Because
It's
ultimately,
targeting.
B2B versus B2C doesn't matter. You're selling to humans.
Yeah.
And if people have that interest, you know, humans consume content in many ways. And if you can kind of follow them around their buyer's journey and just kind of be the little lost puppy, that I think you're going to see tremendous results. So I don't think social plays a huge role. Search results still play search advertising still plays a huge role in it. Retargeting, I think, is going to absolutely dominate everything. But all of a sudden, it's like, boy, now you can follow that user even when they're flopping down on the couch at the end of the day to watch a streaming show. You can get them there too.
Hey, find them everywhere. Everywhere they
Yes.
actually are. Well, one of the things I want to make sure we touch on here, just shifting gears a little bit, is
Yeah.
design, because you have a strong design background. And, I think we marketers really struggle with helping technical leaders understand the importance of visual branding and creative design. And, in many cases, it's easier to sell them on the importance of technical content than it is to actually have your logo not look like some software engineer drew it,
Yeah. You
in
don't
their
want
CAD
to, we're
software
just going to
program
put
or whatever. So how do you do that? How do you convince people to invest in visual?
one of the biggest things that we try to drive home is great design is just as much psychological as it is scientific. So understanding that, hey, you know what, you're investing all this money in um, display ads, social media ads, all this stuff, there's still a highly impactful visual component to it. Good creatives will give you great results. And that's one of the things that, as you look at, and sometimes even understanding, what is the motion of your eye over an ad? Where is their banner blindness in terms of where content is showing up? And understanding some what might be sound like overly fundamental design concepts has been getting lost in kind of the high speed, low drag role of creative with a lot of these advertising. Everybody loves Canva, but you can't template your way into impactful designs. There's
Yeah.
some nice templates, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but ultimately it's what is the role of a creative person in that marketing role to say, okay, hey, we know that we need to make sure that we're A/B testing our call to action button colors, super fundamental stuff like that. But also the whole idea of, okay, we're going to slow down enough to A/B test. We're going
Yeah.
to go through
Right.
and we're going
Yeah.
to go through and really kind of better understand. And probably one of the biggest things that sometimes even designers lose sight of is, what is the voice of the customer through this? What did they say grabs their attention? And how can you replicate good results with good design? And so that's kind of where we look at to say, okay, you know what? That's why branding can be so important, because your brand is going to appear on every little drop of things going out the door, probably even on your product as well. That's why you need to make sure that someone can very quickly, very easily both identify your brand, relate to it, and then recall it when times call for it.
I like what you said about the designer needing to understand, hear the voice of customer, understand that target persona. So, how do you do that? Is that a creative brief? Is it having them sit in on some conversations or reviewing your persona definition? What are some of the tools or ways that you get them up to speed?
I'll start by saying yes. Everything
Universal
you just
yes.
said. Yeah. Probably one of the things that I know when we get started with a new client, we have what we call a creative kickoff meeting with the client. Especially, I mean, and we bring our designers. Yes, it's the project team. Yes, it's the social media specialist. Everybody comes. The reason for that is you're never going to understand the client better than to walk in their shoes. And so we like to have our designers present, go through the plant tour, sit down with the salespeople and understand it. There are times we sometimes try and don't succeed, but we try to, okay, are there two or three customers that we as your marketing partner can talk to understand what is their buyer's journey, what is impacting everything? Because one of the biggest challenges is that, holy cow, the buying process, yes, is changing dramatically, but Steve, who's been there 30 years and always knows you things. Well, he just left. The replacement purchaser is now remote working in Kansas, and suddenly there's no relationship, there's no institutional knowledge passed along, and so they're turning around and jumping on a keyboard. So the more we can understand what that voice of the customer is, even to the designers, the more effective the marketing creatives can be.
Yeah. Gosh, that's great. And it's a good reminder to companies listening that are trying to shortcut marketing, underfund marketing, that to do it right, and to invest that money in a way that it'll be impactful, it takes this depth of preparation and it takes the A/B testing. And, you're better served in the long run by doing it the right way the first time. So I'm glad you talked about a methodical process where you really do end up with the right results.
Yeah, and I know sometimes with leadership, they're like, well, we're plus 45 days. Why hasn't our pipeline doubled? You know what?
Right, right.
It's also partly it's partly our job to turn around and educate leadership whenever possible to understand that, hey, you're starting a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
hustle, you run too fast, you're going to peter out in the end. If you don't dedicate enough budget or you throw everything in up front, you're not going to have enough at the end. It's a long game, and everyone best start training for it.
There you go. There you go. Well, one more quick question I had on creative, because I'm dying to hear your answer to this. But I think about all the review processes I've been in when we're, redesigning logos or working on, I don't know, a brochure or some sort of design piece. And death by reviews and committee and weird inputs. And so just what are the mistakes you see or advice to overcome, things that happen during the design process?
Oh, absolutely. And we've seen this both on both sides. Manufacturers, as weird as this is going to sound, manufacturers are easier than tourism organizations.
Okay.
Generally, you have design by committee or purchase by committee, no matter what. If you can keep that focused and ultimately have one person be the dedicated tiebreaker, that's going to be most effective. It's okay to solicit opinions, but it's also going to be very important to understand that, you know what, not every opinion is going to be applied, because ultimately it's the voice of the customer must reign supreme.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the whole idea behind great creatives isn't necessarily what the sales manager thinks, the vice president of sales and marketing thinks, or even the president and founder thinks herself. But if the voice of the customer resonates with the design, that is probably the thing that once in a while we'll put up like a little stock photo picture of someone. This is our ideal client profile, and as we're going
Yes.
through the design review, going over and pointing to it, do they like it?
Right. This is
Is it
not a
going to appeal to them?
75-year-old technical leader of a business. This is a
Right.
35-year-old, millennial that's now in a purchase authority position, and they respond differently. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And understanding the fact that very rarely buying decisions are made by one person anymore.
Very
Your buying
true.
committees can range from 2 or 3 people to 10 or 12 people. Believe me, we have one tourism client that has a board of 47 people.
What? No.
So
Terrible.
it gets completely different that
Yeah.
way. But as if the advice, if you're looking at rebranding a website design or anything like that, and you know you have to involve management, make sure that everybody is on the same page before you start about saying, okay, A, who is the tiebreaker voice? And B, we need a rock solid understanding of what our customer wants, not what we want.
Love it. And put their photo up there. I think visuals are
Yeah.
always great. And give them alliterative names.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, all of that stuff. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah.
What other words of advice do you have for marketers in industrial and manufacturing?
Probably the biggest thing is B2B is not boring. Take creative chances. It's okay to inject personality into your brand and your marketing. And probably one of the things that can get lost is just because you're working in a highly technical environment doesn't mean it has to be kind of the bow-tied and tweed suit jacket boring. No, bring some life to it. You have an entire world of both customers and in-house personnel that are passionate about this. Let it shine. Kind of the old joke of let your freak flag fly.
I love
and
it.
just let your marketing have some passion to it. Show your in-house culture and show that you bring stuff to the table. And it's completely okay to be 100% geeked out on pressure treated concrete.
Absolutely. I mean, hey, we all need that in our lives, all of us. Oh, very
Absolutely.
good reminder. I really like that. Matthew, where can people go to connect with you and learn more about Signalfire?
Best place to find out more about Signalfire is our website, signalfire.us, Uncle Sam. I am most active personally on LinkedIn. You can find me there. I know Matthew Olson is a common name, but you can also find us at Signalfire-Creative Marketing on LinkedIn. And also, anyone has a question, I'm super eager to help. Drop me a DM on LinkedIn or drop me an email at matthew@signalfire.us.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you. Like I said, being able to meet you in person and meet so many of these people was just a super huge treat. So thank you very much for having me on.
You bet. And let's do it again at IMS 2025.
Oh, absolutely.
All
We'll be
right.
there all in. Thank you.
Thanks for joining me today on Content Marketing Engineered. For show notes, including links to resources, visit truemarketing.com/podcast. While there, you can subscribe to our blog and our newsletter and order a copy of my book, Content Marketing Engineered. Also, I would love your reviews on this podcast. So please, when you get a chance, subscribe and leave me your review on your favorite podcast subscription platform. Thanks and have a great day.